Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Eric Speck. I am the VP of Ethics and Support at RPH Ally. And today I'm going to jump in what I'm defining as chapter 3 of my pharmacy journey. If you saw the last two episodes about this journey, I hope you got something out of it. I believe a lot of these experiences provided me with a lot of wisdom and a lot of lessons learned. And that's the point of me sharing these experiences with you, is to share that wisdom and to go over those lessons learned. So hopefully nobody else out there makes the same mistakes that I did, or if you find yourself struggling, you get help in the ways that I recommend in these videos. So let's jump into chapter 3 right after this. All right, perfect. So let's just recap real briefly. Chapter 1, if I have my events correctly, there's so many, was taking my board exams, right? You guys may remember my opiate addiction actually started when I was an intern in pharmacy, and I couldn't stop taking opiates. By the time I graduated pharmacy school, I was literally chemically dependent on those medications, and I had to take my board exam. I couldn't do it by not taking medication, so I took a little bit to allow me to think, allow me to function. It's crazy how this stuff works. When I was done, I took a bunch to relieve all that discomfort, and I got pulled over by the highway patrol. Somehow I got let go miraculously. If you did not watch chapter 1, definitely check it out. Pretty wild how that whole event kind of occurred, I guess you can say, for lack of a better term. Chapter 2 was I had got my license. I started working at independent pharmacy, and about 32 hours a week, and so I wanted to pick up some extra hours, some extra shifts at a hospital doing per diem work. And so I got a job there. I showed up to orientation, and I must have been giving signs and symptoms of intoxication. Something threw them off, and they ended up firing me during the orientation without really giving me a reason. Still not a lot of understanding of what happened there, but if you want to learn more about that experience, check out chapter 2. So what's chapter 3? All right. So like I said, by this time I got my license. I was working at a small independent pharmacy. And some people ask, or they think that this was my family's pharmacy. My family owned 3 independent pharmacies basically for my whole life, but I never actually worked there as a pharmacist. That was in San Francisco Bay Area, and I wanted to get out of the city. So I moved a few hours away, way up north, where I wanted to live and start my life and all that good stuff, get away from people, kind of live up in the mountains. So none of this happened at my family's pharmacy. But it happened at a small independent pharmacy that was very similar to my family's pharmacy, and I really enjoyed working there. I had this kind of dream of one day, purchasing that pharmacy and basically doing the same thing my family's done for the previous 2 generations. But as you may have guessed, that did not work out as planned. So what happened? Clearly addicted to opiate medications. They say disease is a progressive disease, gets worse and worse over time. And that's exactly what happened to me, of course. So I'm working at this pharmacy, diverting narcotics. First, it started off with 2, and then 5, and then 10, and then 50, and then more and more and more. And I was required to take more and more and more. And I didn't want to continue using, but I didn't know how to stop. I had to do it to function, literally to get out of bed, to show up to work, and do anything. I had to take narcotics, opiates to be specific. And I never realized about my impairment at work, my maybe actions that were inconsistent, what you consider normal. Nobody had said anything at this point. I look back on it now, and I knew I wasn't myself. I knew I was acting differently. I wasn't doing my work as well, but I must have been doing it well enough where I was able to get by. And it wasn't a problem until this one particular day. And to give you guys a timeline of events, I got my license in, I believe it was June or July. The hospital job that I was let go from before I even started, I believe that was August. And then this event I'm talking about today happened in October. So it was only a few months that this was going on for. When I hear some people like who are addicted to, opiates or whatever for years, it drives me crazy. Like, how did you last that long? Like, I didn't even last a year, and I got completely slaughtered by opiate addiction. So, but maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But anyways, enough of that. So this particular day, I showed up to work as normal, which wasn't normal, but I do remember feeling especially impaired, if that makes sense. And I didn't knowingly, and I mean, I don't think I took more drugs than I normally did. It's not like I took twice as much that day or went partying the night before or anything like that. As far as I know, I was taking the same amount that I was always taking just to be able to get by. But one thing I will tell you with my experience dealing with addiction, some days it affects you differently than other days. Sometimes you take a handful of pills and you're like, oh, that hits differently than it does. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's I'm more tired. Maybe it's I'm dehydrated. Maybe there's something else going on. Who knows? But for whatever day, I showed up to work this particular, or for whatever reason, I showed up to work this particular day, and it was bad, guys. It was really, really bad. Slurring my speech, not making eye contact with anybody, fumbling around with pens and bottles and everything. This particular day, I was the only pharmacist working there. There was the pharmacy owner, and a lot of times we work side by side. But on this particular day, he wasn't there. So it was just me, a couple pharmacy technicians, one or two clerks working the smaller independent pharmacy. The next thing I know, pharmacy owner comes in the pharmacy. One of the technicians knew something was up, and I think they had suspicion going on for a while. Well, now the suspicion was kind of confirmed. Something's going on here. So he comes in, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically he said, hey, like, you need to go home. We know you're impaired. I remember him saying something like, we're not going to talk about it now. We'll talk about it later. But right now, like, you need to leave. And I don't remember arguing with him. I think it was pretty obvious. He knew, I knew, everybody knew. And I do remember trying to finish up my work. And this is pretty embarrassing to say. I mean, I will admit I do have really good work ethic. And as you continue to listen to these stories and some more, hear about more events that happened, and then you hear about how I still showed up to work after them because I felt like I had a job to do. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty insane, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here. So I'm finishing up the work I was working on. If you're a pharmacist, you may, put your initials on every prescription that you filled, right? And so I remember doing that. It was like everything was filled, and I was trying to put my initials on the bottle. And you've probably been in this situation if you're a pharmacist. You can't write a pin on tape, like, so we would put the label on and we put the tape over it. And I was trying to put my initials on the bottle, but I couldn't because the tape was there. So embarrassing. And the technician literally goes over and she goes, oh, try putting it right there because there's no tape on there. And so embarrassing. But I remember, like, okay, you're right. So I put my initials on there. As you can realize, like, there's much bigger problems than me trying to get my initials on the bottle. Like, what the heck did he put in that bottle for starters, right? And a bunch of other questions. So anyways, didn't discuss much that particular day. He told me to go. So I just went home. I didn't go get help. I didn't tell anybody what was going on. I had a girlfriend at the time who was in school a couple hours away. Definitely wasn't telling her. Definitely wasn't telling my family about it. I don't know what I was thinking. All I knew is that there was some unresolved business here. I need to talk to this pharmacy owner and kind of figure this stuff out. So a couple of days later, he calls me and says, hey, come down to the pharmacy, after hours so we can talk. And I was like, okay, well, at least we're going to figure out, am I getting permanently fired? Is he going to report me to the board of pharmacy? Is he going to allow me to get my job back? I had no idea. I do remember, though, I was nervous. I was scared. I do remember taking opiates before heading down there to be a little bit more relaxed and all that kind of stuff. I mean, part of me was freaking out big time, right? Of course. So I remember going down there. It's just him and me, and he goes, "Sit down." So I thought was kind of weird, right? Like, well, why do I need to sit down? You're not sitting down. Why do I need to sit down? But beside the point. And then he goes, Eric, anybody else would have killed you. And I chuckle a little bit now, and I think I kind of chuckled then too, because I think that statement was a little ridiculous. Like, I don't think anybody would kill anybody for like showing up to their place of business under the influence. But maybe people are, worse than I thought. Not a huge important point, but just something I mentioned because I don't know, it's a little piece in there that maybe really showed how mad he was, how disappointed he was. Um, but yeah, that's where he told me, nope, you're done. You're, you can't come back here anymore. You're fired, basically. I don't want to see you again. What he also tells me, he goes, and I called your dad and told him about what happened. Right. So my dad's a pharmacist, owns his own pharmacy as well, about 3 hours south of this guy, but they've never talked to each other before. They've never known each other. I'm guessing, my pharmacist I was working for looked him up online, found the business online, called him. And so now I just found out I got fired from this job for good. And now my dad knows about it, and he hasn't talked to me about this yet. And yeah, it was a really, really bad day. I didn't know what to do, but I did know that my dad was notified about my addiction. And in a way, I'm really, really glad that this pharmacy owner called and had that conversation with my dad. So I go back home. I don't remember if it was that day or the next day, but I realized I had a problem. And I'm not talking about an addiction problem, guys. Problem I had is, how am I going to get more opiates to sustain my addiction when I no longer have access to them, so I don't have a job as a pharmacist? Huge problem for any addict, right? Um, and withdrawal is terrible. I can never go for more than like half a day, maybe close to a day, before I literally felt like I was dying and all my survival skills kicked in. I did anything I possibly could to get that high and make those withdrawal feelings go away. I didn't know what my options were, but I called my dad knowing that he knew about what was going on. We had the conversation. He goes, well, you need to go to a detox facility. And I had no idea what a detox facility was. By the name of it, I figured I knew what it was, but I said, okay, well, let's go ahead and do that. And so that was the plan. He had found a place nearby his house, and he goes, yeah, they have room for you. They're expecting you to come tomorrow. That's what you need to do. And I agreed. I said, yes, that's what I need to do. I need to go down there. I need to get help and basically get off opiate medications, because it's freaking ruining my life, ruining my career, my relationships, and everything, right? That's basically what addiction does. At this point, I'm going to leave this chapter at a close here. I don't want to talk about my first experience in treatment, going to that detox facility and that inpatient. I want to save that for a whole another episode, because there's obviously a lot there too. I do want to kind of take a step back and recap this particular day, or this incident. One thing I realized I didn't mention is the pharmacy owner was leaning towards reporting me to the board of pharmacy, which would have been technically the right thing to do. And I remember my dad telling me they talked about that. And my dad said, if you report to the board of pharmacy, his career is going to be over. His life's going to be over. Please don't report him to the board of pharmacy. Let us get this figured out. And when I heard that I wasn't going to report to the board of pharmacy, I felt a great sense of relief. I felt like, that was a life-saving decision, practically, that he made, and he really saved my ass by not reporting me to the board of pharmacy. As you'll see, because he didn't report me to the board of pharmacy, and I didn't end up getting the true help that I needed, I just got deeper and deeper into my addiction, and more consequences continued to build up. When I look back on it now, I honestly can say I wish he would have reported me to the board of pharmacy, and I would have had more accountability, responsibility, more people kind of watching over me to make sure I got the help that I needed. it's a tough decision for anybody in that position. So my recommendation, my advice for anybody who may be in a situation like that, whether you're an employer or you're a colleague, and you're afraid about not getting somebody in trouble, whether it's with the board or with a family member or whatever it is, it's worth it. Let me put it that way. It's not as big of a deal of not doing anything about it and letting them go further and further along this path and getting deeper and deeper into trouble. That's a mean thing to do. That's not the right thing to do. That's not the responsible thing to do. So I think the big takeaway from this particular event, especially as you see what happened further in my pharmacy journey, is do that person a favor. Do me a favor, me back then, by making it hard for me in the short term, making me get the help I need. Because if you don't do that, you neglect doing that, you're really increasing the likelihood and the risk that that person is not going to get the help they need. They're going to go further down that path and continue to make the wrong decisions and destroy parts of their lives, their career, their family, their relationships. Could end up losing all that stuff like a lot of people do. So I'm going to leave it at that for today. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you got something out of it. The reason I share these videos is not because I'm so proud of these things I did, obviously, right? These things aren't necessarily easy for me to talk about, but what I want to do is take my experiences and share them and the wisdom and the lessons learned to others so other people don't have the same things happen to them. Or if you're somebody who can help somebody who was in my shoes, that you're able to help that person better and get them the help that I need. If you have any questions, you can find me at RPH Ally on the peer support channel, rphally.com, or you can check out my personal website, ericjspeck.com. I'd be happy to answer any private messages one-on-one. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to share publicly with everybody else, get a conversation going, feel free to do so in the comments here. All right, guys, thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.